Every other time with Eric, another special episode. As I always say, we got a friend of the show, someone I've gotten to know recently, a professional, a young professional. It's always nice to meet young professionals. Dr. Dimbil Hussein is in the building. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing great. Thank you
for making time, man.
Yeah.
We met, how did we meet? I met Daktari at the gym, incidentally, man. And then he introduced himself. He also knows Sergeant of Coffee Pump. Go check out Coffee Pump if you haven't already. And I went to your social media, especially TikTok, and I'm like, this guy actually has quite a bit of traction. And for me, the angle of a young professional who also dabbles in the entertainment, edutainment space is something that's always very exciting for me, man. So welcome to the show. Welcome to every other time with Eric. We're going to have a fun time, man.
Thank you.
How you doing, man?
Miniko best. I just finished a successful hate watch last night.
Yeah.
Hating on Arsenal. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And thank you for the warm welcome, Manze.
Karibu sana, man. So you're a doctor. You know, when we grew up, doctors are at the apex of society in terms of brain power. You know, doctor is here. Let's not even kid ourselves. I'm a pilot. We don't rank anywhere close to doctor because doctors, us guys say we're in charge of lives. You guys save lives. It's a very different dynamic. So what was your entry into even this crazy world of medicine? Where does it all start?
Well, I think it starts 2008. 2008, my father, God rest his soul, got cancer, colorectal cancer. And it was a harrowing journey to see like that process and not have zero understanding of what's going on. Because see, the thing about cancer, the cardinal signs of cancer is weight loss, night sweats, and a lot of other things depending on the type of cancer. So being a kid and seeing that happen to someone you love is like, I feel so helpless.
2008, where are you? How old are you?
2008, I think I was around 10, 11 years. So by then seeing my father go through that process was a harrowing process. But I think in life, we all lose people we love, and it's what we learn from it, and it's the memories we cherish. So I remember he always used to tell me, if you get a chance, you should become a doctor, as well as losing him even before becoming a doctor. It was like motivation, I feel, among many other things. And I also got the grades to do that shit.
So was it also because of the caregiving you were giving him in that phase of his life or the end of his life where he saw potential in that? Of course, there's always the backdrop of good grades, like you say. Cannot be a D- student who wants with doctor aspirations. So were all those things kind of the signs that this guy has the potential to be a doctor?
Yeah, because like seeing him, because initially what gave us the red flags is he used to like, there's something called hematochezia, passing blood like through the anal orifice. But Adasa having stool, it's blood, and it's like frank blood, damu inatoka. So seeing that, going through that journey of having surgery, going through remission where the cancer imepungua, then it coming back, and that process, it was very, very eye-opening. That's the word I would use.
So what kind of student are you in school? Take it back to primary. What kind of student are you?
I would be the one who's just like lively, enjoying himself. I would never read. I would be lying if I said I was a bookworm. I would just sit in, listen to the teacher, and write down what they would say.
Were you top of your class?
Yeah, I would say I was among the top.
All through,
yeah.
High school as well?
High school was a bit of a drop-off. I think I was index 10.
Wow, index 10. Wow, so bad. He did so badly.
It was a bit of a drop-off. But yeah, then when I got to KCSE, I got an A minor. Because of Kiswahili, I got a B minus in Kiswahili. Kiswahili in primary and high school was very hard.
Kiswahili generally sucked, man.
Yeah.
I've never had, even guys from Coast, I've never had someone, Swahili was my favorite subject. Swahili. Bro, fasihi simulizi.
Man.
Man. Even the thought of it is just stressful.
Yeah.
But in the Kenyan context, what's the transition like from high school to wanting to pursue medicine? What exactly happens? What's usually that transition?
That transition. Actually, I feel in Kenya it's one of the hardest because you see our system of education. Let me give an example of like sasa watu wanafanya British system. Mse mwenye anafanya British system, there is a base that is set up for them if they do want to do medicine. They choose their courses. PSCC, we used to choose where we choose either biology, chemistry, or physics, those things, yeah. But for them, they have something called biochemistry. And when you join med school, biochemistry is one of the hardest subjects that you will find, because like they draw a whole pattern of flowcharts that is hard to understand. But you see someone from IG had that like curriculum basis, introduction, so they have a better base. And even if you see abroad, people don't go straight to med school. They go through college, they do a course in college, whatever course it is.
How long usually?
Usually it's 2 years, then they do 4 years of med school. But for us, it's like 6 years of med school direct. And I feel that transition is very hard, especially in first year. If you are used to living at home or you're in boarding school, then you just thrust into the deep end where you start dealing with cadavers. Cadavers is like dead bodies. And
Cadavers, yes. That's where people faint, eh?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Where you start opening up bodies and you have to get all of that anatomy right. So I think it is a hard process, but I feel the hardest process is now the transition from high school to uni. And you do know how uni life is, like from being closed in high school to having all that freedom.
In fact, let's take it back culturally, because I want to get the full picture. We're at the transition into uni, but let's take it back a bit. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Nairobi, South Sea.
South Sea. What was your upbringing like?
I went to
brothers,
public.
sisters.
Yeah, I have 5 brothers and 2 sisters.
Where do you fall?
Middle child.
Middle child.
Yeah,
okay.
Lost in between.
So I'm also a middle child.
Everybody expects you to just be okay. Yeah, no pampering. Figure out your shit.
And we're independent in our own weird way. That we dive into the world.
Yeah,
and start learning things about the world very early.
On your own, especially, yeah.
So how was that growing up? 5? You said 5 brothers?
Yeah, 5 brothers.
And 5?
And 2 sisters.
And 2 sisters.
Yeah.
That's a big household.
Yeah, big household.
How's it having? How's your relationship with your brothers? Any other medical practitioners in the family?
No.
Just you?
Just me.
Okay.
It was beautiful, because like with brothers, you get in fights together, you play soccer together. Like generally, it's like your friend. But also the older you grow, the more you divulge, because everyone has their own different interests. But still, the love will always be there.
Describe, because I know you personally, so I don't even know where you live now, but South Sea has changed, man.
A lot.
Like from the time you're growing up, it's a metropolis now.
Yeah. But I find it in not being totally in a good way, because urban planning has just gone out the window. As you remember when we were driving together, like the high rises are everywhere. And see, the buildings that these high rises are being built on, ilikuwa nyumba 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. The drainage was meant for 15 people. Now drainage of 15 people, it's serving 400 people. So like urban planning is
it's a ticking time bomb, so to speak.
It's a ticking time bomb.
All right, so the story we always got conventionally about med school, what we'd hear about people who go to med school was apparently day one. You brought up cadavers. You're taken to, I think, the morgue or something?
Anatomy lab.
Anatomy
next
lab.
to the morgue, yeah.
Yes, and that's where they have the cadavers laid there. And what's the whole thing there? What's happening there? Is that like an orientation?
Yeah.
Are they trying to see? What's the process? What are they doing there?
No, it's not even about trying to see. It's like you've already paid school fees close to $500,000. You've already enrolled. You're already in the system. So it's like you have to jump into the deep end eventually. So they bring you to the cadavers, and now the whole body is intact. So it's a table like this. Let's say there's 7 of you. 6 of you undergraduate, then 1 postgraduate doing their masters in surgery. We had an amazing neurosurgeon, Dr. Shamsu Mustafa. He was from Sierra Leone. That's like, I would say personally, one of the most brilliant minds I've ever met in my life. And like, that's actually one of the things that made my first year in med school easy. If you do have somebody who knows what they're doing. Because see, when you're starting to open up a dead body or a cadaver, usually in med school, you start with the lower limb. So you dissect it. So you show the muscles. So for example, the buttock muscles, there's gluteus maximus, minimus, and medius. So you open it up layer by layer. If you don't have someone to guide you, unaweza pita na muscle plus na nerve.
Yes.
But you need to see there's a big nerve in the leg called the sciatic nerve. You need to open up those muscles, then see the distribution of the sciatic nerve to all these different muscles.
So your first day as a med student and you're interacting with a cadaver, is there anything strange about this, or you are a natural?
The smell.
The smell.
Whoa, the smell. So they use a chemical called formalin to preserve it.
Yes.
And like there's a huge concentration of formalin in the cadaver. And the first time it hits your nose, like...
So how are your classmates reacting? Are you guys all cool? Are you all like, yeah, we're med school, man. It's med school, man. This is what you sign up for. Or are there guys who are like, whoa, this is a bit different, you know? How was it for you and what did you see from your classmates?
Yeah, I got dizzy. I needed to take like a couple of breaks because I felt like I was going to fall down. Like my legs were weak. I remember it vividly. Like
and that's more so the chemical, not the sight of a cadaver?
Both, because like you have seen dead bodies, but not in such intimate fashion where like their body is not covered by any clothing and like you don't know how long this body has been preserved. All of that going through your mind. Then the smell. I can't describe the smell. You just have to smell it to state it. It's very hard.
And are there guys who at that point who are like, Twashukuru, adios, it's been real.
Yeah.
And I'll see you next time. Engineering school, here I come.
First day, watu wanatoka. Some people passed out. Me, I had to go take a breather. Some other people have iron will. They were like, I'm here already.
So what kept Hussein going? Like what kept you there? What kept you to the point where now you're a professional doctor? What kept you there from the point you're having shaky knees about the smell and the sight of a cadaver to the point you graduate? Like, what kept you there? Does it develop into a passion?
The passion is very important because I came to notice along the career, you won't get money initially. People think that doctors are kona pesa. It's the older you grow and the more experience. And I believe it's the same for pilots.
Yes.
Like the more experience, the more hours you get is when you start seeing the real money. So if you are going into such careers for money, it's going to be very hard for you to maintain it. But if you're going in with a goal of, I want to do this, I want to make a difference in people's lives, then, and you keep moving because you never know what tomorrow has in store because there's exams, there's life, there's the medicine itself. So I believe it was just like living every day in the moment. It was one step at a time and keeping moving forward.
Now, I've got to know in recent months that I know you're a well-balanced, well-rounded guy. Super professional, but also fun-loving guy. So how is campus? Because the narrative or the preconceived notion we have about medics and medicine is that summer all the time. So I'm imagining you're in campus. Were you staying on campus?
Yeah.
So now you're free. There's no one watching over you. You have your liberties. But then on the flip side, you have this heavy course that you're pursuing. So how do you start? What was that experience like, trying to balance and juggle those?
Yeah, the first few years were just books. I had no other life, like social life. Yes, you do have a life, but it's not significant in that you have to wake up early in the morning, be there at 7. From 7 till 8 or 9 in the evening, you're in the anatomy lab, for example, first year. Just dissecting, trying to cram all that anatomy. Then you go on, read till around 12:1, go to sleep.
From 7 to 8? Wow.
Yeah.
With a few breaks in between?
Yeah, with a few breaks for lunch and all that, but you're on site, you're in the anatomy lab.
So cadaver like and then lunch.
Yeah. Then
for a layman, that's such a strange concept to interface with like a dead body and then let's go for lunch, and then back. And then also there's a dynamic that I'm curious about. And I'll keep propping you guys up because it's just a fact. Medics are the sharpest brains the country really has to offer. But then now you've all met in one place. So it's like my bad men and my bad women have met. Is it intimidating?
Yeah, obviously there is an ego there. There's always an ego. The higher you go, everyone wants to show that they are better, they are smarter. But I feel like it shouldn't be that way, in that this should be a community where we build each other up, because I can tell you for a fact, nobody knows everything. No man is an island. We all need to combine.
Except the island boys.
Except the island. Yeah, so I feel it was, because Kenya One alikuwa hapo, wase wa Alliance, wase wa Stere, like people who like were amazing in their uni. But the thing is, it's a sobering experience in that you're all starting from the level playing field. And you can be book smart, but see, from first year to third year is when you need book smarts. From fourth year to sixth year, you need social smarts, because your exams change from books to patients and lecturers. So you have a 1 hour exam where you examine a patient, then the lecturer comes, you discuss all that. So it's not only how you know the knowledge, but how you elaborate the knowledge and how you share
Social
the knowledge.
skills.
Yeah, social skills are very important.
Which is something you're very good at. Your social IQ seems to be very high. But how for the first 3 years, how do you keep? Because you're what, 20, 21, 22 at the time, bro. Party life happens, man. Like unasikia sherehe. What gives you that focus to know that for this time I need to just sacrifice and stay focused? Because also another thing that's common in the Kenyan context, especially with courses like that, you're almost carrying your family on your back. You're pursuing medicine. Or it's like a whole community thing. Did you feel that pressure?
Yeah, expectations are very high. Unaitwa daktari from the first day umeingia first year. Hata hujui dawa, hujui any terminologies. From then on, it's everybody calls you daktari. So the expectations are very high. I feel it's just like prioritizing and finding time to, because that's where I feel I failed. And I remember the day I was doing the podcast with Sajid, I had a lecture at UN with first years. And I was telling them, your life is not only medicine. Your life is not this profession. Pursue other things. Do art. Do a podcast. Like, live your life outside, because there was nobody to tell us in our generation, is like the early Gen Zs of the medical career, that you have a life outside these books and outside this anatomy. Because I literally used to carry body parts back home. So for example, on the weekend, nachukua, like, I take a hand together with the muscles, naifunga vizuri, because it wasn't allowed. Unaongelesha mtu mmoja kwa anatomy lab vizuri, unaenda unasomea exam.
Are you telling your family, like, yo guys, you want to come see a hand? Let me give you guys a hand.
Let me give you a hand. Nice one.
Wow. So that happens? So
that happens.
So in your room, the same way I would now perhaps be on the internet or in a book, look at how an engine works. You have a hand.
Yeah, me and Mrs. Wangu, kuna siku, she got traumatized. I had like a whole hand. I was staying at her place for the weekend, and she comes in now, like, her baby was at my mom's house, so I was staying at her house. And then she just finds in my room like a whole hand on the table. Alianza kupiga nduru.
Like, this is a mass murder.
Mass murder, I'm saying, ana collect ka Dexter, venye ana collecting mementos.
Yes. Wow. That's different. So first year to third year is primarily books.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, I feel.
And what is the transition now for? Because I know that social skill element, in as much as when you have it, you assume people have it, but a lot of people don't have it. So you find someone's very smart, but they cannot expound on things. They don't know how to explain things. Yeah. So how was it for you? Was that you preferred now this transition to third year, fourth year?
I enjoyed it very much, because like first year to third year was very hard for me, like that transition from being pampered and being shown everything. When you go to uni, as you know, like, nobody gives a fuck. Do what you want, do what you don't want, as long as you bring the results on the table. But from fourth year, you acclimatize, and then you move to Kenyatta, where you interact more with patients and more with like the profession. So it was very easy. From there, I think I enjoyed it.
And what percentage of guys from the time you started, perhaps day one, are dropping off as you go?
50-60%.
Wow.
So we started like 500. By the time we were finishing, we were 200.
Wow.
Yeah.
And guys are dropping off for many reasons. I'm imagining maybe not keeping up grades and stuff. Perhaps temperament, maybe ability to just withstand. Perseverance, yes. You said something that I really resonate with you, because my platform is also about that. I always say we're not a monolith. And you've talked about you giving a lecture to your students where you emphasize that apart from your career, don't let this just be the thing that defines you. Make sure you have a life outside, which is exactly what this for me is all about. It's we were kind of raised, and we kind of grew up seeing people who are very one track. I'm a lawyer. And that's by definition, by how I carry myself. You're a lawyer in and outside the hall rooms of the court system, and it's not. I don't think that's a way to live. It's not a balanced way to exist, man. Why can't I be a doctor and also a stand-up comedian, or a doctor who plays soccer well, So it's just important for the viewer watching, younger guys, age mates. If you're a professional right now and you have aspirations that could be artistic, perhaps, feel free to explore, man. We're living in a free time, so to speak. So I really resonate with that, and that's probably part of the reason we gel so much. And that's also the reason I gel with a guy like Saji, professional, but also, so we wear many hats. You're a jester and you're super professional.
Yeah.
So third year, fourth year, so I used to think it's 8 years. It's 6 years.
6 years.
Okay.
But because of, how UN was from the years of 2013 to 2018, it was very chaotic. Let's say 2020. Because my course was supposed to be 6 years, so I was supposed to start in 2014 and finish by 2020, but I finished end of 2021. So my course was 7 years, and some people even stayed 8 years. I know people who've been in med school for 12, 13 years. Because if you fail an exam, you have to repeat the whole year again. So it's more longer than people think.
Now, before we come to, of course, one of the reasons that kind of put you into the limelight, I know most people who are activists or have an activism bag, it always starts in campus. So for you, where did it start? Because you're a very outspoken person when it comes to the rights of doctors, to be treated well, paid well, as per whatever CBAs have been signed.
Yeah.
So talk about your inroads into activism.
So in my second year of med school, I vied for Sonu Faculty Rep School of Medicine. By then, Babu was the chairman. I actually worked with him. So my friends told me, we need representation as the junior years. And by then, I had been having a track record of standing up against the administration. Because, for example, the administration would be doing something like, instead of giving us that 1 week study period, because before exams, you're given 1 week, wanaichukua, si tunasema we're going to demonstrate.
Yeah.
So after we did 1 or 2 of those things and they gave us the exams, I was like, why not try? And I vied for Sonu, got into Sonu, did a lot of crazy things.
Talk about that. Let's not skim over Sonu, because Sonu, I mean, one of the of course the most outright what do you call it? Sonu post Sonu era representatives is of course Babu Owino, who's now in mainstream politics. Talk about Sonu. What was Sonu like from the inside view?
It was very, very interesting. It was like a telenovela.
Yeah.
It was like House of Cards, UN edition. Because like everyone has their own agenda. See, the thing I've come to notice about politics, and it starts from uni politics all the way through like national politics. It's close to the same thing in that everyone has their interests. There's this video I was watching. This guy was saying, corruption is not bad. It is only bad when I'm not involved. Yes. You saw that, Kazae?
We put that clip on the screen.
Corruption is not bad. Corruption is only bad if I'm not involved.
Yes.
But if I'm part of that corruption, I'll defend it.
So even in uni, everyone has interests. And see, being a young, naive, like 21-year-old or 20-year-old with ideals.
Idealistic.
Very idealistic. You're like, for example, that time I was in second year, the governor of med school had embezzled some funds. Not some funds, a lot of funds.
Millions?
Close to millions. By then, if you see someone stealing 800,000 to $1 million of campus funds, I'm not saying that's the exact amount, I'm just giving an example. It's like, and this money was allocated for events for the students, for like first year, like homecoming and shit like that. Then you don't see an event happening.
The school has it clean.
Inapotea. So me and my friend who's like now in the Bahamas, he's in the Caribbean, he's a dentist working in the Caribbean, who I know is going to come back into Kenyan politics. He's called Gideon Majiwa. Me and him, we filed a petition to the vice chancellor. We're like, kuna pesa hii na hii, umse aliiba. We like literally followed it up, and the senior heads in the organization were like, why are you guys doing this? Amjui pia nyi kuna siku mtakuwa in that position, and pia wewe utapanga kazi. So a lot of people inside the organization were like fighting us, but us were like, hii ni mali ya watu, hii ni mali ya mastude, was allocated for students. So like that was an eye-opening experience in that there's no such thing as leadership. It is all politics. And in our country, that's what is like failing us even now. Like people are great politicians. Like our president is a great politician, but we have very few great leaders in this country.
That's a very profound point. And not just restrictive to politics or even uni politics. I think there comes a time in all men's lives where the idealistic goggles are removed, and then you see how the world works. You get a glimpse behind the curtain. And because I can imagine when you guys are doing that petition, it's such a noble cause. I mean, you're expecting everyone to just rally behind us. Oh, you mean that money was stolen? Meanwhile, guys are like, boss, unachoma, man.
Yeah, but no.
And does corruption in that context for uni fight back? Like,
Yeah.
Are there like forces? Now, leave alone just bro, acha kuchoma, but also like force,
Yeah.
How does that
forces, work? Like your petition will just go into the papers. Paper pushing to bureaucracy. There are bureaucrats who want the system to not function. And even in our conversation, we'll talk about how it's in healthcare. Like people thrive off the system being flawed. So once you come in with your ideals and your morals, trying to straighten the path, the people like, no, this is not how it works. We'll show you how it works. And in the least intimidating way, watakwambia hakuna kitu utafanya. Now that's what happens. Hakuna kitu inafanyika.
Wow. So what does that do for you as a young man? What does that do for your cause in terms of your fire for activism? Does it embolden it, or does it shake your cause at the time?
At that time, it emboldened it, but then you get through more of that bureaucratic hurdle and you see how like the systems have been put in place for the few in power and everyone else ni mangombe tu wanaonyeshwa njia. You like, the older you grow, it's either you become part of the system or like unaosha mkono unasema nah.
And this system, I talk about this a lot even with friends, and the Rastas call, the Rastas say system, Babylon. It's so strong. And a lot of people, leave alone, you're either benefiting from the system directly, you're fighting the system, and they're just the sheep in between who are just victims of the system without even knowing. And that's the majority.
Yeah.
That's the majority of the people, yeah?
Yeah.
They don't like anyone. In fact, people who spot things that are off, your own people will be like, no, you're not supposed to back against the system.
Yeah.
So eventually, you said it took you 7 years to graduate. Talk about that, man. What was that like for you? I think I've seen on your social media pictures of graduation day. Pictures of that.
The painful part is graduation ilikuwa time ya COVID. So we didn't actually have a physical graduation. So you just have to sit at home, watch your name appear on the screen, put on a gown, take a photo, and move on with life.
How happy were your family for you?
Yeah, very happy, very happy.
First doctor? Are you the first doctor in your family?
No, there are a lot of doctors in our family.
Oh, so it's a
first
thing.
Doctor for my father.
Okay.
But like in the extended family, my cousin is a doctor, my other cousin is a doctor. Yeah.
So when you graduate, once you're a graduate doctor, what's the next step? What happens now?
In our country now, the system is broken. That's the only word I'll use. Because back in the day, before devolution, and even after devolution, what used to happen is once you graduate, immediately the Ministry of Health takes the list of all graduate medics and then posts them to different hospitals in the country.
Yes.
For what is called internship. Before ATA, when there was the national government, every doctor used to be absorbed by the national government and posted all over the country. So doctors were all over the country.
It was a sure job guaranteed.
Sure job guaranteed. And it meant that healthcare was accessible to all Kenyans. Now, come devolution, every county employs at their own behest. So unapata place ka Turkana, the need for doctors is, let's say they need 1,000 doctors, but you might find they've employed 50.
And does the devolution and that employment at their own behest affect, like when they're choosing, are they choosing based off my community? Let's say me Amutiso, am I being sent to Ukambani, for example? Or how does that work? How do they go about choosing? Or it's you
The criteria initially was like there are different hospitals and then there's the population. Because you see the population of Ukambani is very different from northeastern, let's say, or northern Kenya. And central Kenya is very different to, let's say, somewhere like coast. The population is different. So there's the population burden number one that should be analyzed. But our counties don't do any of that. Uko, because devolution allocates a budget for health. So why should I employ 50 doctors on a budget of, let's say, 20 million, while I can employ 10 of them and then put under them clinical officers, which I don't mind any issue with clinical officers. But in our country, say, there are like, let's say, 5,000, 4,000 unemployed doctors. But the doctor-to-patient ratio in Kenya is one of the worst in the world. The WHO recommendation is 1 to 1,000, one doctor for 1,000 patients.
Yes.
Kenya is 1 to 17,000.
Oh, wow.
So one doctor for 17,000, but bado nasikia 4,000 doctors are unemployed because from the move from the national government to devolution, health was devolved. Lakini hausikii walimu kaa walikuwa devolved. Teachers wali maintain their TSC. So every teacher is employed and there are teachers all over the country. But for doctors, depending on the siasa of that county, these politicians, as I was telling you, the system of bureaucracy, because health allocates a huge budget in the counties. Lakini sini kupanga kazi.
Yes. So riddle me this. Can a doctor graduate, a fresh graduate doctor, for example, be absorbed by a private hospital immediately? Like, let's say Nairobi Hospital intern day one.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, that actually happens.
So
but the slots are
also
very little. Yeah. So it depends on connections. It depends on your CV up to that level. So you have to apply, and now it's very rigorous. And now the interesting thing about private hospitals is they take advantage of that, because your skills and the services you're offering, salo ya intern inakwanga 150k, and you saw there was a lot of gisting about fighting, yes. I actually want to talk about this, and thank you for giving me this platform. So interns, once you finish uni, you're supposed to be immediately absorbed. Nowadays interns are waiting up to 2 years to get internship. Imagine you're 2 years hauna license, so you can't practice. So you're fresh out of med school, you're at home. Like, let's say if you're from a poor income family, hauna do, you can't support your family who supported you through all of this, knowing that kijana wetu akimaliza, I can take a break. So there's a lot of depression, a lot of suicide cases, and you've seen on my social media me talking about it, because it affects the mental psyche of someone who's been to, there's this doctor who passed away. She was in med school for 10 years. Unajua Moi University med school is just a broken system, because like the system doesn't work. The people in Rift Valley walibomwa to Moi University. That uni is just going under in debts. The systems aren't working. So
when you say system not working, even from the education side, in terms of curriculum and what they're offering you.
Or say 6-year course wako huko for 10 years. Then akimaliza, Ministry of Health inasema, wakina Nakumicha wanasema hatuna budget ya kwa budget ya intern ni 1 billion, lakini unasikia scandals za 3-4 billion.
All the time.
I actually call it Mafia House.
Mafia House.
Uko Mafia House.
Infamous.
Yeah, the infamous Mafia House. So then you see the people who are making these logistical decisions are not doctors, are not people in healthcare, but they want to make logistic decisions for the country that is in need.
Who are these people? Just system.
Yeah, watu wa PS, CS, like these people in those offices. Because like, say what usually happens hata wase wakipostiwa internship, your first 3 months haulipwi, your do iko, you've already been budgeted for by the treasury, the money has been allocated.
Don't tell me nakula.
Haikuli, inawekwa kwa fixed account mahali.
So someone is
so tuseme
profit
3 months 400 million na unapata like interest ya 10%, 5%.
So someone is making that money as these interns who worked so hard,
their backs.
have and you guys, I know you have crazy shifts,
32-hour shifts,
and they're not earning because some guy wants to make
extra buck on top of
percentage. But don't you guys have a union?
Yeah.
Talk about the union, because unions, time immemorial, have been used to save protect.
Yeah.
In my industry, we have CALPA, and Kenya Airlines Pilots Association, and they really go toe to toe with the airline. Like when the airline tries some BS, it's back and forth. And different philosophy. Some people say that sometimes they hold the airline hostage, but their existence is necessary. Others, these guys would do as they please.
Yeah.
So how does your union represent you, and what is their role, and how does it work in terms of the things you're describing?
Our union, the position of our union is very interesting. Our union actually, hakuna haja niongee chafu, our union has really been fighting for the interns, for doctors. But I feel like, kama sahi uliona there was a strike last year. Then it prematurely ended. And the painful part was it prematurely ended without communication with the union members. So wase walienda kapatana na Ruto. I don't remember if you remember that. Walipatana na Ruto, walisamuniwa. Story kaisha hivyo. Like, how do you just end a strike after you summon?
So that's a briefcase ama inakuanga bahasha?
Conventionally is unajua nchi yetu. Kila mtu akona interest, as we said earlier. So our union has stood up. Actually, the KMPDU Nairobi branch recently, last month, but one we were on strike. because of issues with pay, delayed payment, issues with insurance. So imagine you're working in a ward. There's this bird flu that is breaking out in the UK, which there's this virologist who actually predicted COVID. There's this virologist who predicted COVID would happen 5 years before it happened. And this virologist has said there is another global pandemic that is loading.
Can I scare you? So at the airport, at where we exit, after we come and put our paperwork back, where passengers exit, there's some screens that are back at the airport. You know, that for temperature, they're back. And usually that's a sign of
impending
pandemic, you know. So that when we saw that, we're really like, guy, because you know that COVID gave us
iliwapatia trauma najua for sure. So imagine you are the first line personnel who is going to handle it. And I remember I lost a very close friend of mine called Dr. Mogusu to COVID, because this guy was working at Machakos level 5. Hakuwa amelipwa for 3 months. Nakumbuka ilikuwa UCS wa trade ndo alikuwa governor wa Macha hiyo time. 3 months mse hajalipwa, is working back to back shifts in the COVID wards that is like walled off, it's quarantined. Anaenda huko with poor equipment, because COVID manze you had to have N95. Si tunavaa tu hizi mask za kawaida, and you see patients who the viral load is very high. Mse mwenye hii ugonjwa inamtandika, so you are at risk, lakini hatuna insurance, or the insurance that we have isn't working. So how can you be safe? Because me, I've pricked myself in surgery a couple of times. I've used post-exposure prophylaxis a couple of times. So imagine, manze, you're putting your life at risk. Yes, it is a job. But now the place where people don't understand is we also have a life. We also have needs. We also have a family going back to. Imagine unarudia wife yako ama madhako. You're carrying a virus. Your parents are maybe old. And like there's no that precautionary measure. And there's no reward at the end of the day. Salo yako nacheleweshewa. Insurance yako haifanyi, and you are a front line. Imagine pandemic inakuja, hiyo pandemic inakugonga, unaenda hosi unalipa bili ya 2 million. Because those boys alilalishwa ICU, bili yake ilifika 2 million.
I know, Dr. Hussein, there's something that for sure, as you speak, for me, that differentiates doctors from any other career. There's a noble element, whether we try to deny it or not, because the things you've described, I'm putting myself at risk. I am potentially exposing myself to different viruses, and then I'm not getting the commensurate reward, yet I'm still going. There's no other industry that does that, you know. So the calling for medics needs to be respected on a different level. You guys are doing what people would say is God's work. I mean, it's just so heartbreaking to imagine that, because I'm just trying to imagine that. Imagine putting my life on, and then I'm not being paid, or I'm not being treated accordingly because of a few greedy individuals. So how do we go about even trying to turn that tide? Like, what's
hard? As I was telling you, like the systems are deeply entrenched, like the bureaucratic systems. Kama sahi, healthcare in our country, usually there's this thing called Abuja Declaration. Abuja Declaration says that like 10 to 15%, I don't remember the exact number, of like the budget goes to healthcare.
Yes.
Lakini unaona healthcare budget yetu sahi in the proposed finance bill of 2025 imeslashiwa by, I think ilikuwa 170 billion, sahi imefanywa around 90 ama 80 billion. Like literally these guys have lashed more than a half.
And the population
is growing. Ugonjwa ina grow. Sahi non-communicable diseases like cancer is blowing out of proportion. I do to charity work, I told you. So last year I went to Wajir. Wajir has a huge burden of throat cancer. Now,
what's that about? What's
the water? So, and there's I don't want to get in trouble, but kuna hiyo propaganda that they used to dump nuclear waste in.
Oh yes.
So there is a huge burden. Now I say, mi nilipatana na msee anasema manze niko na issue ya gas na tonsillitis manze simezi vizuri. Unamwambia wewe hii shida imekwaje? So he gets progressive dysphagia, which is difficult in swallowing. Msee anadhani ako na tonsils ama gastritis. Unamtuma kwa cancer center, msee ako na throat cancer stage 3. There is only one cancer center in all of Northeastern, in Garissa.
And this is in all awareness of the powers that be.
Kwanza Northeastern, that place is being run like a casino.
Wow. That is quite disheartening. But we're going to come back to this. But I want you to explain, because a typical question, for it's your life. For us, it's a very unique, interesting thing. you talked about surgery, right? That's something you do. The other day when I called you and I was we're trying to link up, but you're telling me I just come from a 8-hour surgery. So what's surgery like? Give us a typical day. I know there's nothing typical about it, but your best description of what a day of surgery is for us laymen or my viewers who are not doctors.
It depends on the hospital. It depends on the hospital you're working in. So if you're working in a private hospital, life is very soft. For example, there's my friend who's an orthopedic surgeon. He works in Metropolitan Hospital, Buruburu. Metropolitan has one of the best theaters in Nairobi. So going in there, you have freshly prepared scrubs. So unaingia tu hapo, unavaa scrubs vizuri. You just go, you scrub up, you clean up, you go into your surgery. Everything is prepared for you. You have like 5 assistants. So he's a spine surgeon. So spine surgeries last anywhere from 8 to 16 hours, depending on the complexity, if there's a tumor removal. So that 8-hour surgery, it's usually that's the smooth ones that have no complications. For example, the other week I was doing a laparoscopic surgery with my friend.
What is laparoscopic?
So now surgery has developed in that nowadays they don't even need to open you up. So this was a surgery for a hernia. A hernia is when your abdominal, your rectus muscles, they weaken, and your rectus sheath, which is the sheath that covers your muscles, weakens. So your intestines open up and go into a different part of your body that they're not supposed to, maybe like your scrotum or your inguinal canal. So back in the day, what usually happened is you open it up, you remove those intestines, you put a mesh to hold. Now the place where the abdomen is weakened, you put a mesh, which is like part of it's biousable. Because you see, if your body feels there's a foreign object, it fights it.
Also, biousable means it can be assimilated
into the body. Then you leave that mesh and it prevents it. But nowadays, you don't need to open up. You just put 4 holes. You put 2 holes for like what you're going to use to open up to suture, which is like kushona. And then you put a camera. Small hole inatoshana kidole yako. You just see everything through the camera, and then there's a screen. So the screen is here. The patient is lying down here. So you have like 2 parts where you're controlling, you're opening up, you're cutting the tissue, the camera is there, and then there's a suction tube where you remove the waste, like let's say damu, anything that is not needed there. So laparoscopic surgery is minor invasive surgery, and I feel that's the future of surgery.
So do you guys have a brief, or do you brief the day before? Do you have a briefing room?
Yeah.
Or how do you prepare for surgery yourself?
So for me, for example, right now in Gava, I usually work in outpatient and in gynecology. So I say gynecology is the easiest profession in surgery.
Really?
Yeah, it's the easiest profession in surgery because mostly the female reproductive system is more straightforward than other organic systems in the body. In that, once you get the flow of that anatomy, it rarely goes wrong. And if it does go wrong, it's easier to control the complications. So for example, I do C-section. C-section is just like you open up the layers of the abdomen, you expose the uterus, you cut open the uterus, unatoa mtoto plus placenta, unashona uterus. So back in the day when I was starting my surgery of C-sections, it would take me an hour. Now for a fresh abdomen, 20 minutes.
20 minutes?
Yeah, 20 minutes. I'm in and out. For like a previous scar, which is like mtu mwenye amefanyiwa CS before, depending on the scars. For 4 scars, it might take me 40 minutes. 2 scars, 30 minutes.
And how does it feel? What's the job satisfaction from having successful procedures?
Best feeling in the world. I think rarely it beats it, especially when it's something complicated and then you go in there, you sweat it out, and then you see your patient walking out. No amount of money can...
What about the inverse of that? And I'm not trying to get you traumatized or bring back some sad moments, if any. What about the inverse of that?
You never forget. That's the thing. You will do 150 surgeries, 149 if you're successful. It's that one you'll always remember throughout your career. So for surgeons, they will always remember the L's. You won't remember the W's because the W's are very high. For you to become a successful surgery, your success rate should be above 95th percentile.
Wow.
So utakumbuka your 5% too.
Wow. And there's something you said, I don't know if you're allowed to say this off camera. You told me how sometimes, because you're a county employee, things disintegrate to the point where your basic workman's tools are not available.
Bana.
And isn't that can that not lead to loss of life simply because there's not this for that?
Yeah, it makes it harder to execute your duties, because the basic things that you need. For example, recently there was a patient in my facility that I'm working in, had TB and had a pleural effusion. Pleural effusion means there's fluid in the lungs. To get fluid out of the lungs, for me, it's like a 5-10 minute procedure. All I need is a chest tube and a container to collect the fluid, for which I can send it to the lab to analyze what is causing the effusion. Hakuna chest tube. It's just a tube and a container.
So do you feel like punching the wall in such a moment, or what do you do?
Manze, like, it demoralizes you in that hata recently there was this issue with Mama Lucy, ati walikuwa anasema kuna negligence, kuna mtoto alikufa. But see, our Kenyan public need to understand, manze, kuna venye you have one hand tied behind your back. That's why sometimes unaweza ona hata daktari hana psych na kufanya kazi venye inatakikana, because you get there, the basic tools for you to deliver in your trade might be missing, and you're like, kitu ka prescription pad ni ka kitabu sifai kukosa. Kitu ka normal saline fluids sifai kukosa. Kitu ka kuna those emergency drugs like adrenaline, like insulin, those are the things I should not send a patient to buy outside. Lakini unaona public hospital, msee ako na diabetes, the sugars are through the roof, they need insulin start. Unaulizana insulin iko wapi? Hakuna. Aenda nunue pharmacy. Literally opposite the gate to every public hospital I've been to, there's a pharmacy.
Privately owned.
Yeah.
Wow.
Na kuna kila kitu yenye hosi haina.
Now, switching gears, because I don't want to get you in trouble, you give us a very good picture into the practical side of being a medical practitioner, the political side, and you got your sort of star into this media space last year, and the anniversary is coming up soon during the Gen Z protests. So talk about your role in that whole thing, because bro, you are at the forefront. Ulikula tear gas.
Hata then nilikuwa naona zinapita tu juu, because I was at parliament hiyo time. Watu wakirekodi hiyo blood parliament, I was in one of those ambulances carrying people. Yeah.
So talk about that, man.
See, the thing about being young, because we're all young men here, is most of the time in your youth, in your 20s, you're spontaneous, because a lot of shit just comes at you and you're like, what should I do? How should I approach it in this manner? So the first day of the demonstration, we just went as demonstrators. Then we saw like the tear gas was too much, and like the flavor, because I've been tear gas since my days in uni, and you can just notice this concentration of tear gas is way stronger, because these people are afraid of this getting out of hand. And there's even a study in South Korea. South Korea totally, completely banned the use of tear gas. Like, there's no even tear gas production, because tear gas is so detrimental to your lungs that even a small amount of tear gas can have long-lasting events to your long-term effects to your lung physiology and anatomy. Now imagine being constantly in that tear gas. So like we were like, why don't we come together as young doctors? Because most of us at that time we were unemployed. We're like, tuko free, tunaona watu wanaumia, si tuchange, tuongeleshe madaktari wenzetu, we just get the basic tools, nebulizers, something to open up your lungs if you're piga tear gas, we get some sutures to shone watu. So the next time was, I think it was on a Tuesday. So we were like, there was Dr. Salim, Dr. Japrado, Dr. Elias, we were a couple of doctors, like 5-6 of us. We were like, si tushikane, tuombe wase wenye wanaweza donate, tuende Jamia Mosque. One of the people went to talk to wase wa Jamia Mosque, wakatuambia tutawapea tent hapo. They gave us a tent. We started posting on social media like, tuko kwa maandamano. If you need any help, if you feel like you're overwhelmed, Jamia Mosque is your safe spot.
So this is pre the big date?
Pre the big date. Because it went on for like 4 different occasions. Yes. It was Tuesday, Thursday.
Yes.
That big event was going to be the 4th Thursday we were there. So tulifanya Tuesday. Then some people I don't want to mention because we know each other from very, very big offices in Gava waliambia sa Jamia Mosque after the first day because it was very successful. We got hundreds of thousands of views on Twitter and TikTok. Viral. So we went viral. So people high echelons of power waliambia Jamia, Jamia should stay apolitical. Funny story. It's only when the people are involved that religious institutions should stay apolitical.
So and the gripe with you guys is that by you conducting a medical camp, or so to speak, or also shows numbers of injuries. It kind of
we're
gives
collecting
a
data.
picture of what is happening and the intensity of what's happening. So does anyone call your phone personally?
Nilifai kuzima simu because on that day ya parliament we literally couldn't leave Tao because Mombasa Road walikuwa wamefunga, so ilibidi tutembee hiyo side ya kwenda side za Westlands Chiromo. Tukatokea Chiromo, we literally walked all the way from Tao tukaenda Chiromo, tukatembea Kileleshwa, tukatembea hadi home South Sea because it was wild. Then tulipigiwa simu, I was called by friends from Nice, walikuwa wananiambia yo mnatafutwa, all of you doctors. Even one of our friends was kidnapped, one of the main organizers. So it was very scary.
What's the most tragic thing you saw? Was it bullet wounds?
Kuna msee alikuwa ameangushwa from a building, aliletwa kama ashapass, so DCI akakuja akachukua mwili.
What? So it always interests me how DCI are so quick, meaning they're so rad.
Walikuwa rada mbaya sana.
So what does, when you watch a documentary like Blood Parliament, what does it invoke for you?
I cried. I can't lie.
My wife cried as well.
That shit hurt because I knew I was there. Then listening to that young man who passed away, Akimbe Ngoma and Yashinsky. I love that song, Your Baby. So leo sina kitu, kesho ntafanikiwa. So you seeing him sing that and seeing that this was just a young man who was actually there to speak up and raise their voice against bad governments and poor leadership, had to be shot in the back while they were running away. It was just tragic, and it just opened up old wounds for all of us who were there, all of the young people who saw that this movement had no intentions of being violent. Literally we were going with bendera yetu na maji yetu, hatuka na kitu ingine.
And what are your thoughts now to the build-up of the anniversary? Because we're coming close. What, a month or so away?
Manze, me, I don't know. As I told you, I'm still in my 20s, so I'm spontaneous. I'll just light a candle for the people we lost and try to just be a voice of reason and a voice of change in a time where reason and change does not work in our country.
Deep, man. Switching gears before we get into how you let your hair down, so to speak. I want to ask, what's the roadmap for doctors who, can you export your talent? Are there countries or territories that are just so willing to be like, yo, if those guys at Kenya are not treating you well, Maze,
come in.
Is there anything like that?
I believe Kenya produces one of the best, if not the best doctors in Africa and one of the best doctors in the world. Even if you travel around, you'll see the Kenyan doctors. Kenya has the highest number of doctors in, was it Mozambique? Expert doctors in Mozambique. Kenyan doctors are a lot in Mozambique. I have 2 friends who used to work in St. Mary's who are my mentors, work Australia. I have friends in the UK.
Oh yes, I've heard about Australia.
Yeah, a lot of people are a lot of the young, brilliant doctors in our country don't feel like there's hope in our country. So watu wengi, myself included, kila mtu anafikiria venye tutatoka nchi, we go build our portfolios, get some money, and maybe when we have money to invest back in our country, we come back. Because now financial growth as a professional is very, very hard. Because there are roadblocks everywhere, especially now as professionals who might not have a step in, kaba bako si daktari, or your father isn't a pilot. Before you get a step into the game, it's very hard.
It's difficult.
Because now getting employment anywhere as a doctor, ni connection. Portfolio, yes, you need the portfolio, but without the connection, it's 10 times harder.
So connection gives you that last,
the most important nudge. For example, me apply job Nairobi Hospital, na boys budake is a specialist in Nairobi Hospital, apply automatically 1,000% of boys atapata job. Mimi, chances are way less than that.
So it means generally with all us young professionals in their different spaces, different fields, different careers, a lot of talent is going to be lost in a generation to foreign countries, right? That's quite sad. But now switching gears, man, as we land the plane, as I like to say, we met in the gym. You're a vibrant guy, and from ever since I've known you, I know you're a girl. So how do you let your hair down? How do you? Because you're well-rounded, you're well-centered. I've never seen you walking with your head down. You're full of stories. You're full of vibrancy. How do you keep that equilibrium going as a young doctor with all the things you've described?
Yeah. I feel, number one, you just have to have spirituality. One thing I can say is none of us is perfect. For example, me, I'm a Muslim. I'm supposed to pray 5 prayers. I won't say I'm perfect. I make sure I'm going to be always there. But I try to have that sense of spirituality in that this is God's plan. binadamu anapanga lakini Mungu ndo anaamua, as Bien would say.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's number one, spirituality. Number two, you need to decompress and decongest. So it depends on what you find decompressing. For us, going to the gym, also watching something.
Have you been there this week? Me have slacked this week.
Nah, I haven't been there in a minute.
Yeah, man. I might have to go. I have another shoot today, but I need to make a point. Because I'm hitting the bag, I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that's a very good way to decompress your boxing and just putting your body through. Because there's even a study that showed that working out increases your level of brain power and brain productivity.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I've said, I mean, whenever I'm in that flow state of working out, I mean, my performance at work is better. My performance, my life is better.
Yeah, like performance-wise, you go to best.
You have more energy,
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's been such a pleasure, man. Like, I know you personally, so... But now, talking to you in this context has also been very eye-opening for me, man. So when I met you, I think from day one, I was like, yo, we need to do this thing. So I just want to thank you so much for coming, for making time, also for your contributions into the medical faculty in this country, into the activism space, into the media space. Because this is new media. I keep telling people right now, we're in some bedroom somewhere shooting a podcast, but bro, we're making history.
Yeah.
Posterity. You will look back at this and realize how epic what we're doing is, bro. So it's such a privilege and an honor to have you here.
Yeah.
I'd just like to give you the last opportunity in case you want to say something specific to my audience and to a young, aspiring doctor. Someone who right now maybe is in high school or primo or just about to start their medical career journey. I'd just like you to say something. Looking at camera, man.
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you, Eric, for the wonderful opportunity and platform, because I know you have a huge platform, and for you to welcome me in this nature, I really appreciate it. Because as you said, we are making history in that this is independent media. This is not Githeri media. You have no agenda. Your agenda is just to give information freely to the people and for them to digest. For the audience, Eric's audience, the younger audience, I wish you all the best. I know it's a tricky part that we are in as a country, but we need to stand together. We need to idealize our morals. We shouldn't give up, and just follow your dream. If your dream is to become a doctor, follow it. If it doesn't work out, don't be bitter about it. Life is about journeys. Life is about learning and losses and learning from your losses.
You couldn't have said it better. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Dimbil Hussein, what a pleasure it has been, man. Until next time, if you haven't subscribed, surely what are you doing? Every other time with Eric, Dr. Dimbil, it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.